Okay, in 5 minutes, the most important part of the lecture. We'll see what we can do. Some of you may be Catholic, some of you may know just war theory, but there is this notion of proportionality, which basically argues that as a military commander, you might have to kill civilians, but only in proportion uh, to the military advantage anticipated. So any attack which causes loss of civilian life and to civilian objects, which is excessive in relation to that, is called, illegitimate. I mean, because it isn't proportional. I would only observe that proportionality is somewhat subjective, to say the least. I think if you're, let's say, and I'm not particularly, but let's say you're Polish and you suffered at the hands of either the Soviets or the Nazis in the 40s. The Soviets and Nazis would say that what they did to you was proportionate. You might not take the same view. Yeah, I mean, exactly what is excessive and what's necessary and what was military advantageous tends to be defined by who wins. And if you lose, whatever you did was disproportionate, and whatever the winner did was proportionate. This is cynical, probably excessive, glib, but there's something to what I'm saying. And I think people forget that, and they need to dial that in. That said, let's go to the next slide. Some people want to reduce our nuclear arsenal, but it isn't to make it less destructive of innocence, but rather they say that if we only target innocents, we don't need so many. And since we want fewer, that's the way to do it. Here is a statement by someone who was very high up in the British Defense Ministry, talking about it would appear that all nuclear weapons will have to follow the UK, and that is the shift from military to civilian targeting, which seems barbaric, but it may be a feature of the path to going to global zero. Now, we're not going to global zero right away. It sounds like the last few years seem to have steered us away from that objective for a while, if not forever. But, interesting point. Let's go to the next slide. I think Mr. Obama, not to go after anyone politically, but pretty much, well, let's hold that off for a moment. Pretty much argued that maybe we needed, if we wanted to come down, think about a deterrence only strategy. And that made the same point. And that point was, well, we'll just target cities. The military pushback said, oh, well, that would violate the Geneva Convention, which of course we haven't signed, that says you shouldn't kill innocents. Luckily, Mr. Obama backed off, at least with regard to the targeting. It might be some people might argue, oh, well, it'd be good if we came down the numbers. Well, maybe, but to then use the numbers you have just to target cities to kill people, a little uncomfortable with that. At least I am. Maybe there's some of us that think that's a good idea, but this is still in play. Why don't you? This is a talk. This is the man that's going to give us a talk on Monday. So why don't we play that? And he's talking about precision guidance. Still makes us have to deal with this.
Is you've got to think over the next 10 to 20 years about kind of an evolution in the competition. That we're going from single shot missiles and demonstrations to salvos and how you defend against salvos or how you kind of limit the damage from salvos. The next step in that, as Evan was talking about, in terms of how you go after the kill chain, the critical aspect is going to be, we're in this kind of blinding campaign race where we're each trying to counter the command and control communications and intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance complexes of the other. That, rather than me trying to go out and fly swat each missile coming in, I'm going to try to destroy your kill chain while trying to preserve my own. That in turn, if you kind of imagine both sides getting really good at that, eventually you say, well, the hard thing to go after with the kill chain is something that moves. So increasingly, I'm going to fall back to holding things at risk that don't move. What are things that don't move? Well, they tend to be kind of counter value in nature. So
That's
we made a
cities.
renaissance in counter value targeting. Okay, can I use that?
Okay, stop right there. That's enough. Countervalue targeting is code for going after cities. I think as a result of conversations he and I have had privately, we've expanded and I think rightly what that might mean to things that are not cities. But it gives you a taste of how even precision guidance doesn't necessarily walk you away from an attraction to going after innocence. And if you have any doubts, take a look at what Mr. Putin's doing to Ukraine with his precision guided munitions, going after maternity wards. Good Lord. Let's go to the next slide. Almost done. We went through the Obama thing. Let's keep going. Also, if you poll Americans, as has recently been done, they still have a taste for giving back in revenge many-fold what's been given. So if you lose an aircraft carrier, the proper response, according to 60% of Americans, is to kill 2 million people in Tehran. Okay, maybe they won't be in control, but that's a political thing that becomes an issue in war, perhaps. Next slide. Well, that's more of the same as North Korea. You can read these at your leisure, but it's the same point. All right. Now, there. This is the last thing, and it'll take 2-3 minutes. Uh, if you are a serious human and you want to be civilized, the first thing, and what higher education I hope helps you discover, is what you're interested in, and then the second thing, which may take the rest of your life to figure out, is why you're interested in it. Uh, I couldn't figure out exactly why I spend so much time on these topics until about, 10 years ago. And uh, the way I found out was I was trying to help put this course together with pictures, and I wanted to get a picture of just how awful area bombing was. Now, one of these pictures is of a stack of bodies in a German city that had to be burned because of health problems after a area bombing, which had killed all these people. And the other is a stack of bodies at a camp like Auschwitz. Now, one of these is a justifiable, proportionate, legitimate act of war, and one of them is a war crime. Can you help me figure out which picture is of which? By the way, there is no correct answer. I leave you with that. And I think much of what we are trying to do through the perfection of military science is to get away from this, I think. At least that's the best argument for perfecting and advancing military science. And I think it's something that we need to really uh, pay attention to if we're interested in national security.